Good evening. It's 6 o'clock. I'll call this meeting of the Enfield Select Board order on Monday, February 2nd, 26. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. We have two sets of minutes, one from January 15th, the Select Board meeting, one from January 20th, Budget Hearing and Budget Committee, and the Select Board joint meeting. Take them one at a time.
Please.
January 15th, Select Board meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve as printed.
Second.
Any issues, discussion? Motion to approve?
I made.
I'm sorry.
That's
Do we
okay.
have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
January 20th, Budget Hearing, Budget Committee, Select Board.
Move that we accept the minutes of the Select Board for January 20th, 26.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm going to abstain.
We need to do something for the Budget Committee, or?
Oh, they're not here.
Okay. There are a few here. Glad you're here. Thank you. Next up, we have board reports. Alice, anything?
I don't have any updates tonight. I have not been at, I haven't been to Heritage or EVA this month.
Excellent.
Yeah, the planning board met last week, had a subdivision of a property out on Crystal Lake Road, and then also had a discussion with Verdantis Engineering, who planning board is hiring as a third-party reviewer, should an application come in for Laramie Farms. There was just discussion of how that will work, what the roles are, and how to make sure we have the proper firewalls in place to avoid conflicts of interest.
As far as the Budget Committee, I think we have a pretty good ideas all there at the last meeting. Things, I think, went well. I can truly say I enjoyed my time with the Budget.
The Energy Committee met, and we spent a good amount of time, which is on our agenda for later, a discussion, the property tax exemption for solar installations, and I'll mention that later on.
Thank you.
Conservation Commission will meet this coming Thursday. I'm actually just asking for a packet right now to make sure we've got it, and I probably won't be there if anyone wants to go in my stead. Thank you, basketball. But let me know if you have anything you need from me.
Thank you. Next, the town manager's report.
Thank you. To start the update as normal, I'll start with the staffing report. Brooke Camp started as our new Public Safety Administrative Coordinator last Friday. What I hear, she's doing well. She will be working with the emergency services staff and Emily Curtis as she trains on the new position. Brooke comes to us with several years of dispatch experience and understanding of police and emergency service operations. We would like to welcome her to part of the Enfield team. The police department has also started the search for a replacement candidate for Mike Crate's position. He will be retiring at the end of February, and we've received several applications with one candidate moving forward in the first phase of testing. We'll continue looking for applicants there. If you know of anybody that would like to apply, please send them to Chief Holland. Finance Director update. The Finance Director position, as you know, has been released. We have at least 5 to 6 applicants currently and are continuing to work on that. MRI continues to monitor those applications, and I'll check in every so often. We did release the ad in other few locations, including LinkedIn the other day, and that has generated some additional interest. We've also met with MRI consultants to bring them up to speed in places where they can be most helpful with us in closing books and looking at the reconciliation process. In addition to that,
Democrats and Republicans over Chase. I mean, Clinton
In addition to that, I've prepared the first draft of the internal controls, what we currently do for Scott Smith, who's the senior consultant with MRI, and he will be working with us on the internal controls audit and recommended changes if needed. On the Crystal Lake Watershed Management Plan, we haven't talked about that for a while, but I'm currently finalizing the Crystal Lake Watershed Planning application for submittal. It will be coming to you, or at least portions will be coming to you at our next meeting for final authorization before submission. Potato Road Culvert, you guys have a public notice that we handed out tonight, but we did receive public notice today for the replacement of a 64-inch metal culvert with a 14-foot wide box culvert along Potato Road. This is part of the FEMA hazard mitigation grant that we've been putting in for many years. This has been posted to our website and it's open for comment. We also have some posted on our bulletin boards if people want to look at them. This isn't final grant approval, but this is a critical next step prior to final approval to get public feedback on this project. From the Land Use Department, on Wednesday, January 28th, the Planning Board approved a minor 2 lots from 1 lot subdivision at 10 Crystal Lake Road. Planning Board has 2 applications for voluntary lot mergers that'll be heard in February. As of today, he had his first meeting. Rob's representing Enfield on the Regional Leadership Coordination Work Group. This is a statewide housing initiative that was started under Governor Sununu's new New Hampshire Council on Housing Stability. So it's great to have an Enfield representative on that statewide committee. Rob Taylor, Jim Taylor, and I met with the new Advanced Transit Executive Director, Terry Palmer, last Thursday. Adam Carroll, the outgoing Executive Director, was there as well, and we talked about advanced transit and then transportation in Enfield. It was a nice meeting to meet the new oncoming Executive Director and then just to talk about needs that we see here in Enfield, possible plans with advanced transit. Planning Board members will be attending the Conservation Commission meeting this Thursday, February 5th, to share their proposal on the zoning ordinance amendments and changes. And with that, the Planning Board's also working, I've been involved in this, working out a third-party engineering review master services agreement with Verdantis Engineering. They were formerly Horizons Engineering, and if you guys remember, we use Horizons Engineering for our water engineering work, so we're just working on an amendment to their master services plan to make sure that we have a full arm's length separation in there between the third-party review and any work that has to be done down, just to make sure that there's no conflict of interest or perception of them. So we'll be continuing to work through that wording to make sure that it's done right. Vinny recently attended the New Hampshire Building Officials Association training on performing mechanical inspections for residential properties. And then we have a little bit of a slow start through January on building permits, but we assume this is due to the extreme cold weather that we're having. In the Public Safety Department, the Enfield Fire Department responded to 24 calls during January. 8 of those calls were on I-89 due to weather and road conditions. We will continue watching that, but as we have bad weather, we'll be out on the roads responding. And then the Police Department has received another $14,000 from the Stanton K-9 grant. This money will continue to fund the cost of the position, such as veterinary bills, overtime, and training. So nice to continue to get that money coming in to offset the cost of that. On the DPW front, the destruction of the truck being replaced by the Volkswagen grant was completed last Friday, or Friday, January 23rd. The representative from the grant program from New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services was on site taking photographs and recording casting numbers of everything that was destroyed. Once the documentation is complete, they will forward instructions for us to get our final disbursement for that. 2025 annual transportation report has been completed and submitted. We had just over 650 tons of solid waste and recycling. This is a little bit less than what we did in 2024, but not by much, so pretty much on par. Were collected and shipped from the Enfield transfer station. DPW made it through the first big snowstorm of 2026. We had very few and minor complaints, but overall had a lot of positive responses from the response to the big storm. Then DPW wanted to thank you, Kate, for the food that you delivered to DPW, and it kept them going through that storm. And then just wanted to update the select board that we're down to 6 residences or 6 addresses that still have not moved over to the radio metered. As you guys remember, in the rate setting, we added a fee for manual reading, so we're down to 6 of those. The water sewer staff did take the time to go hang door notices on those 6 doors prior to implementing that fee to give them one line switch over. On the recreation front, the Whaleback After School Ski and Ride program continues for 3 more weeks. It has been going very well because of the coordination between the schools, Butler Bus Company, Whaleback, and the many volunteers that we have. So thank you to those that are volunteering to help that. Then plans for Enfield Summer Recreation Camp are being finalized right now. In previous year, just as in previous years, registration will open mid-March. Spots are expected to fill quickly. We are moving back from an 8-week schedule to a 7-week schedule because we had trouble help. A lot of our camp counselors go back to college, so it was tough for us to get enough staff to cover kids that were there. And then we are going to be making a few changes in how we do registration. The drop date used to be almost up until the data camp. We're going to put a little bit of time between that because we were not able to fill a couple spots at the last minute. Then we're working on final changes on payments and charges for this year. So stay tuned if you're interested in camp. Those will be posted maybe before the next select board meeting. If not, we'll bring you some information then. And that's my select board report.
Thank you. Next on the business of the meeting, the first item is a 2024 audit presentation by Tim Green. Will present the audit and findings. Thank you.
Thank you. How's this? Is this good? Again, Tim Green from Robertson Green, here to present 2024 audit report, financial report with the audit opinion. As I usually do, I'm going to try to just run through it without being long-winded if possible, but there's a lot here, of course, so I'm here to answer your questions as well, so if I don't touch on something that you want me to, certainly bring it up. But I will start, as always, the reason you hire us is to provide an opinion on the town's financial statements, and we do that through that first report, starting on page 1, the 3-page report this year. And you'll see in that first paragraph, the second paragraph, excuse me, the town has received an unqualified opinion for all its opinion units, which is the best opinion that you could have. This is pretty boilerplate language within this opinion report. The one thing you might notice is that there was a paragraph called change in accounting principle. There was a new accounting standards that the town implemented as required. It was for compensated absences. Basically what it did was it changed the calculation of what your accrued sick leave would be on your books. Doesn't change your policy, of course. It just says if you now need to record a liability, a long-term liability for sick leave that is more likely than not to be used. Basically, if someone is 51% more likely to use their leave the next year or the future years, you need to record that portion of it as a liability. Again, it's only on your long-term statements. It's not in your general fund. It's not on your other governmental funds. Those are still annually appropriated for that leave. But it does, at least in some cases, it does represent a larger change in that liability. Again, going forward, you'll calculate it the same way, so you'll see it. You'll be back to more of a consistent change year to year. The next section of this, of your financial statements is your management's discussion and analysis. This is drafted by the town themselves. We make sure that your figures are consistent with the financial statements themselves. We'll help you with implementing the tables and schedules, but any sort of opinion statements within this, it comes from the town themselves. I don't tend to highlight anything here. I think it's just, it kind of supplements the rest of the financial statements. So I'll move right forward to Exhibit 1 on page 10. This is your statement of net position. This is all of your governmental activities, and this is on the full accrual basis. So here you are reporting your capital assets and your long-term liabilities. You can see the bottom line, the total net position at the year end, December 31st, 2024, is just over 18 million. That represents over 48 million in assets, $500,000 deferred outflows of resources. The town has liabilities just over 30 million. Another 600,000 in deferred inflows of resources. And you can see that total net position of 18 million. Of that, 12.5 million represents net investments in capital assets. That's your capital assets, less any debt required to use to acquire those assets. You have restricted net position for endowments. These are your trust funds, both the non-expendable and the expendable portions. You have a restricted for other purposes. This represents any money that is legally restricted or restricted by donors, such as your library fund. It's a larger amount this year because you had unspent bond proceeds for the projects that were ongoing at the end of 2024. And then you are left with an unrestricted net position of 600,000. The next page is Exhibit 2, Statement of Activities. This shows your expenses and your revenues and the ending change in net position. Total expenses for the town was just over 10 million. You had charges for services of just under 3 million. You had operating grants, another 120,000, and you had capital grants, which was almost just under $1 million. You also had general revenues, such as primarily property taxes. Those are raised to support the town as a whole versus targeted to any one expense line. You had total general revenues of 7.5 million. So you can see total change in net position was a positive increase of $1 million. The change in accounting principle, again, you can see the effect of that, implementing that new statement I talked about. Some statements, when you implement them, you're required to retroactively calculate them. So you actually had to calculate what the 12/31/23 balance was, and then the 12/31/24 balance, and then record the change during the year. So you can see that you actually had a $120,000 restatement from the prior year, which represented an increase in your liabilities. Moving right along, Exhibit 3 on page 12. This is your governmental funds. This is on modified accrual basis, so this is considered current resources. So receipts that come in during the year and within 60 days after the year end can be considered revenues. Anything that takes longer to receive is deferred. So here you can see all your major funds. You have the general fund was a major fund, the TIF district fund, the Whitney Hall and Public Safety Project is one capital project fund that was major, and your expendable trust funds are major funds. And then you have an aggregate column called other governmental funds. This is all the other funds of the town that are not major, and this is an aggregate column. You have a detailed version combining schedules in the back of this report. So for the general fund, you can see total assets of just about 8 million, total liabilities of 5.5 million, primarily made up of intergovernmental payable, which it represents the school portion of your taxes. They're on a fiscal year, you're on a calendar year, so you have assessed the taxes in November roughly for their July 1st to June 30th year, so you essentially have 6 months worth of a liability to the school. You had deferred revenue of almost 600,000. That represents property tax receivables that haven't been collected within 60 days of year end, therefore are not available. And then you have of 1.8 million, and that's broken down into 4 categories for the general fund. You had $20,000 for non-spendable, which represented tax-deeded property that you're holding for resale. You had 80,000 in committed funds. Those typically articles that are non-lapsing or have that roll into the. You had a small assigned balance, 1,500. unassigned fund balance, 159. You can see your fund balance for your other major funds, TIF districts, you have 2.6 now. The Whitney Hall and Public Safety Project was ongoing. You're at that at 12/31/24. You have $3.5 million, and the expendable trust fund has just Exhibit 4 on the next page. This basically is a walkthrough between the two accounting basis, the full accrual to modified accrual. So this essentially says Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 3. What are the differences? Your totals for capital assets. You can see your total. On the next one, Exhibit 5. This is a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. Now, this is again for your governmental funds, so on your modified accrual. See for the general fund, total revenues was $7,689,000. Expenditures $7,674,000. So you had an excess of revenue over expenditures about $15,000, and then you had transfers in and transfers out, which was a decrease of about $500,000. So you can see your total net change in fund balance for the general fund was a decrease of almost $500,000, $185,000. Comparing to the prior year, the prior year you had an increase of $600,000 for that same period. However, your unassigned fund balance from 23 to 24 only decreased by just under $200,000. Primarily, that amount was the increase in tax revenue. So you basically were pretty kind of flat from the year before. Exhibit 6. Again, this is a walkthrough between your two accounting bases. So this essentially is Exhibit 2, comparing to Exhibit 5, and what differences. Exhibit 7. This is a budgetary basis schedule. This is the general fund. Statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in unassigned fund balance. You can see here the results of the budget year. You had total estimated revenues of $7.6 million. And you had actual revenues of $7.8 million. You had a positive variance of $180,000 roughly. And then your appropriations, $7.5 million, and your actual expenditures were $7.3. So again, another positive result of about $150,000. So your net, you had excess of revenues over expenditures for the year of $428,000, and a budgetary positive variance of $300,000. You can see again the transfers in and transfers out, resulting in a net change in fund balance of a decrease of $70,000. Your unassigned fund balance actually increased by $20,000 because of non-spendable fund balance decrease. So when one classification of fund balance goes up or down, unassigned goes up or down the opposite direction. So unassigned fund balance at the beginning of the year on the budgetary basis was $2,374,000, and at the end of the year was $2,300,000. Exhibit 8 is a budgetary schedule for the TIF district. This fund is budgeted revenue. Your revenue estimates equals your appropriations for this fund every year, and you can see the actual results. I know taxes are much higher, I think, at time. Down to answer that question, but Exhibit 10, this is a fiduciary net position statement. Excuse me, Exhibit 9 and 10. They both are fiduciary funds. One is statement of net position, and then one is your changes in that net position. You have two fiduciary funds. You have the private purpose trust, and you have custodial, both held by the trustees of trust funds. Private purpose represent amounts given to the town that are not available to the town as a whole. For example, a scholarship fund is only available to a student at the time, whereas funds for welfare or funds for a park or something is available to the town as a whole at any time. So private purpose trust would be that scholarship fund, and a custodial would be money the trustees are holding for other entities altogether, so school district funds or other agency funds. I don't highlight anything within the next section, the notes to the financial statements. It's a big section. It's designed to describe the town's accounting policies and to go into detail on significant assets, liabilities, revenues, and expenditures, so it should be self-explanatory. On page 43 starts your required supplemental information. This is schedules that are required to detail your net pension liability and your other post-employment benefits liabilities. These schedules are supposed to be 10-year schedules. So the town has now been reporting its net pension liability for over 10 years. So you have a 10-year running schedule. So every year you're going to lose that old column and add the new one. Whereas your OPEB schedules on page 45, starting on page 45, those liabilities have not yet been reported for 10 years, so you don't have 10 years worth of data showing yet, but you will once you reach that point in time. The next section is combining an individual fund schedules, starting on page 48. This is a combining balance sheet for your non-major funds. You can see you have water and sewer funds, library, your grants fund, your recreation, conservation commission, the capital project fund, the other capital project fund, and then your permanent fund. You can see here that the town reports 2 funds with deficits, the sewer and the grants fund. For the grants fund, the deficit is because you can see above it the $459,000 deferred revenue. So this represents primarily some receivables for grant expenditures that have not come in yet, or grant money paid up front. There was, over the last 4 or 5 years, there were a lot of grants put out by the state or the federal government that were money essentially given up front, such as for highways or for roads. So the town, when you have that and have not used it, it's deferred revenue until you use it. So that's primarily the reason the grants fund is in a deficit. Sewer fund has been in a deficit for a few years. However, this deficit is a decrease from the year before of just over $100,000. So your deficit was actually cut in half the year before. Exhibit 16, this is your revenue and expenditures for your non-major funds. Again, you can see where sewer fund has a positive change in fund balance of 100,000. Your library increased about 50,000. Your water fund actually did have a decrease of 30,000. So that might bear watching in future years to see if there's a trend there or not. And then the last part, starting on the next page, page 50, is a detailed schedules for the general fund. Again, this is budgetary basis. This just breaks down your estimated revenues, your actual revenues. The results are the same, of course, as we discussed on Exhibit 7. But if you go to page 53, last exhibit I'll talk about, this is a good detail of the changes of the unassigned fund balance for the year. So again, the town started the year of unassigned fund balance of 2.3 million, used 523,000 paying the tax rate. Town had a revenue surplus 300,000, had an unexpended balance of another 150,000. Town had a budget surplus of 450,000. Comparing that, this may not be a good number, a good comparison or not, but I like to show that the year before your budget surplus was just over 500,000. Year before that, 270,000. Year before that, 500. So this $450,000 budget surplus, if you will, is pretty consistent, and it represents about, if you were to take your appropriations and compare that, you're about 5.5% of that appropriations number. Now, of course, a budget surplus includes the revenues as well, so you're not really, it's not totally apples to apples, but I think it's a good number to say, okay, is that meeting our goals, or is that outside of our goals? And your goals could be whatever result you're looking for. The last thing I'll go through is our letter to management, and I'll highlight. So the timeline of this audit, as you know, I was here, or I presented it was May probably last year to present the 23 audit. So, and it had been issued in April of 25. So that's a long gap from the end of the year to the issuance of the audit report. So we didn't start the 24 audit until June. I would say my opinion is the 24 audit was still basically had the same issues as 23 audit because of the time frame of the 23 audit. So 24 was being cleaned up. We showed up in June. We did a lot of work, but there was a lot of work the town still needed to do, and the town did that by the end of the summer. And then from there, we had one more visit for a few days and a lot of our office work we had to do. That's why it wasn't issued again until January, last week, basically. However, I do think going forward, I'm certainly optimistic. I think the town has implemented a lot of change. I heard more changes today that I hadn't heard before, which is great. I know those people at MRI, I know what knowledge they bring, so there's no questions there that you'll get a lot of help from that too. A couple things that I commented on that we did note for 24. Well, the first big comment is basically repeating the year before, account reconciliations. The software needs that trial balance is the key. That's what I look for when I come. Those balances outside cash especially, but even all the other accounts outside of that need to be looked at periodically throughout the year, making sure that they're not spiraling into something that you don't know what's going on there. Because basically, if your balance sheet is not clean, it affects your revenues and your expenditures. And the board is primarily going to be looking at those figures. But for example, I know the health insurance liability line actually represented expenditures that hadn't been reported as such because of that reconciliation delay. So again, same recommendation, making sure we're doing periodic as part of our internal controls, as part of our procedures, is to essentially, internally audit those balances monthly or every 3 months or something to make sure they make sense. Your accounts payables should represent bills you haven't paid yet. Your liabilities should represent, for payroll taxes, it should just be that last payroll run that hasn't been sent to the IRS and so on. Other notes that we made, the RSA is pretty clear when you vote to send money to a trust fund. Well, two things. One, DRA is going to always complain if you don't send the gross amount to the trustees and then pull back the money for reimbursement. The town has in the past just said, waited till the timeline at the end of the year and said, well, we spent, we raised $20,000 and then we spent 15 for the same purpose, and the board approved using that money, so we're giving the trustees $5,000. DRA will always come back to you, and they'll even question me and say, well, why is it only $5,000 transfer? And they have to explain. They'll say, no, just send the $20,000 and then pull the 15 back. They want to see that gross activity. Secondly, the RSA is also specific on the timeline. If you vote to transfer some to a capital reserve or expendable trust that comes out of fund balance, you have to do it within 10 days of the vote in March. If you are appropriating it from taxes, you have till December 15th to do so. And we noticed a couple non-compliance with those rules. A couple other items of note that didn't make it into the report, but will be in a letter that the board will see probably within a few weeks. Sometimes I highlight a couple things that, just for general knowledge. There happened to be a mistake on tax rate setting. There was an amendment to the budget for how much was coming out of fund balance at town meeting. If you were to look at the minutes, the initial article requested 180,000, something like roughly, and then it was amended to 114. Now, I don't know what the error was, but when the tax rate was set, they used that original use of fund balance portion, not the amended fund balance portion. The budget itself didn't change. However, the result is theoretically you raised more in taxes or you raised less in taxes than you had intended to. Again, we went through the results. The town wasn't negatively affected, in my opinion, on where you ended up from where you started. But were that a bigger gap, it could have been a bigger issue for the town. And I've seen that, generally speaking, these issues you see with schools around the state has to do with budget errors like that sometimes. So making sure that this could have been a DRA mistake or something the DRA would have caught that didn't catch. So the town also wants to go back and double check those figures before signing off on the bottom line. So wanted to be aware of that. There's nothing you could do after the fact of the result from that. Yeah, basically that was the only other item I didn't already address in the audit report itself. So from that, any questions for me?
I always have questions and comments on this.
Yes.
Thanks, Tim, because this is, honestly, I think this is the best report you've given us yet in terms of, yes, we've done some stuff wrong, but the feedback is really helpful, and I think it's really easy to understand, so I certainly appreciate it. I kind of went through the communication to management and highlighted what I think are action items. I want to see if you think they're fair, because I feel like that's where we should focus. You know, I read the rest of it, but I feel like we need to action these items out, assign them as a board, and enact expectation of meaningful change. So I started with the deficiency in internal audit controls, which I think we all know we have. And we've already actioned that one out to Ed, and I think it's fair to say the status is in progress. You've had that discussion. Do you think that's a
Yes.
fair enough? Okay. And then I listed the reconciliation of monthly accounts. So we implemented as a board a process by which we have regular financial updates. We stopped getting them when people were trying to catch up on work. And that's something that we're maybe remiss in asking about. So I feel like we've got that one in process, and there's a regular deliverable timeline and a monitoring status where we can ask every time, why isn't this done? So it gives it a normal cadence, even if the answer is, it's almost done, it's going to be done next week. The third one, obviously, timeliness of audit. We know we rode the big struggle bus, and I think as a town, we owe you an apology and some appreciation on your flexibility, because I think we've been a hard client this year. And so I think the timeliness, is obviously assigned over to staff, and they're telling us they're getting close, right? So I think then action item for us as a board is to take a look at one of our upcoming meetings and make sure that package has been delivered. Nothing else. Or the timing and calculation of transfers to trust funds. That one, yeah, to the trustees, I don't know if we can action that entirely, but there's an election coming up and there's someone running for trustee of trust funds. So some of it I think is maybe we could help train and so that we can make sure we're doing those transfers. And then I made a fifth note when you were just talking that the mistake in the tax setting, and that's really something we should watch for every year. We could make ourselves a little work instruction around after town meeting, I guess, deliberative session and ballot voting. Check that. I think those 5 are
Yes.
enough to keep us, my
Yes, Gene, come up.
Jean Patton. So I'm sort of, half a hat of budget and half a hat of a regular resident. I'm just wondering if Tim can even comment on this, what he foresees as challenges with the town's finances and making sure that all our Ts are crossed and all our Is are dotted. Because I feel like we've been going on for a while and we keep having this long lag of the audits are done. And I know from a budget standpoint, it would have been really helpful to us to have these audit reports early on and not way delayed. And so I'm hoping and praying that there's some sort of big lessons learned from all of this, and that we're going to have some sort of policies and procedures in place.
Thank you.
Like me to answer that? I think it's very difficult this day and age, governmental accounting while also. So it does require a certain skill set sometimes that you don't staff, you don't have resources to have multiple finance people in your office. I mean, those are the challenges, but I think that we're planning, we've March to start the next audit. I sometimes reflects on me as well on how long these take, so I want to make sure. My goal is also to get that information to you timely. I completely agree that you don't have this year pass before you have this information. I do think you're working.
Thank you. And you had your hand up?
Dan Regan. Thank you. So last year, the 2023 report, there was a material weakness noted, a significant deficiency notice, two less serious issues. And this year, we have a couple of significant deficiencies noted. What I really liked about last year's report is you put in there the criteria, the condition, the cause, the effect, and the recommendations. Didn't do this year, and I kind of go along with what I think the board would find that to be extremely helpful. I think a new finance person extremely helpful. I'm sure Ed would, and everybody would, and it would be a good starting point for our financial audit on goals. So I can't make recommendations or requests, but if the board, that'd be.
Thank you very much. How about ready to move on to the next item?
Tim had a comment.
Yes.
You wanted to respond to that, Tim?
Just that last year's was a single audit, so by requirement, it was formatted that way versus it wasn't a single audit this year. So that's basically the primary reason we can implement. Our findings can be tailored in that direction, though, for sure.
Kylie.
On the account reconciliations, I think when you write the policy, you should have something less nebulous than reconcile periodically. I think it should be reconciled quarterly, aside from cash, which is monthly. But I mean, generally, all the other ones where you're trying to put stuff together, I think it should be quarterly and not leave it nebulously and periodically.
Thank you very much.
Can I add a little piece to that? I'd like
Go
to
for
see
it.
it done monthly with a goal date, right? So a lot of companies, the expectation is that you close by, say, the 10th. If you aren't done by the 10th, you have a reason. And you have a date that you are promising, and then you do the deliverable by the date. So I guess I'd like to see that be part of our process.
Anything else? Final comment? Nope.
I have one.
Yay.
Yes.
I just wanted to thank you for saying out loud that it is very difficult to do government accounting and day-to-day operations by the same person, and that the financial requires a unique set of specialized skills. I think that is something that we're learning and addressing, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Well put.
Unfortunate, but yes.
That's life. Thanks for putting up with us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. I appreciate the support you've given us over the years, for sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we're on to the police cruiser purchase discussion. Chief.
Hello, everybody. So as you got in your packet, every year, we're always looking in our department how to save money for the town, how to better spend our budget. And like last year, we did some research, reached out to the company that we trust and use for our cruisers and outfitting them. And through talks with them, if we can, this year, the cruiser through the CIP is not set to be a lease, it's set to be a cash purchase. And so I'm requesting to do it now because if we can order it now, which is their low time, they'll save us $7,000 over the price that we had submitted to the CIP for the cruiser outfitting and purchase this year.
Sounds good. Comments from the board?
I think,
We've done this before, and it's an excellent way that Roy has done to keep an eye on the market. Absolutely need to take advantage of these limited opportunities when they show up. Thank you.
Hey, you had a comment?
basically, I will echo what Tracy said. This is something that we know you do. And so I said to Ed today, I didn't even open up this part of the packet, and I already knew what you were up to, which is awesome because I think it shows real initiative, and I certainly appreciate it as a taxpayer and a member of this board. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the expenditure of up to $68,000 from the CIP CRF fund for the immediate purchase of a police cruiser, and further authorize the town manager or their designee to take such actions and execute all documents that may be necessary.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
There you go. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Chief.
Okay. Next up, we have deliberative session discussion, procedures, and presentations. Who'll be leading this?
We can kind of go through this slide by slide, but this is what we do pretty much on an annual basis going into this. We talk about who's going to make the motion to open these up and then who wants to discuss them as we get to the slides at town meeting. We also invited Lindsay here to kind of walk through deliberative session with you guys and for Saturday. You want to say anything before we started, Lindsay?
Hello. No, I don't need to say anything. Let's just walk through it. And if we take any comments, I'll gladly step aside. So I'm just up here let's just get in it.
As of right now, if you look through the slide deck, I guess we can just go fast. We have the opening slide and then the slide that the purpose of deliberation was to discuss and debate Article through 12. That'll be possibly amended to be placed on the ballot. Second slide was the memorial for Proctor. Recognition of volunteers as we
We
always
need to
do.
designate someone to speak on
We can
Proctor's back.
go ahead.
I was going to toss out John, and I are frequent flyers. John, do you want to do it? You and I were always frequent flyers to Proctor's.
Oh,
You want to
right.
do it?
Sure. We can do that.
Donald memorial slide. We need a select board member to do recognition of volunteers.
I'm happy to do that.
Article 1 is election of officers. We'll just read through that. That's on there by statute. Article 3, $1.4 for sewer. Some motions if you guys that, but we have. And I invite Jim Taylor to talk on that, and that will. There's a few slides in there for you guys. Article 4, we have Tracy to make the motion. Motion to put it for. We'll be asking select board members if they would like to discuss this, and then I can.
I was saying that I would be happy to do the presentation on this so that we have some clear facts and an opportunity to have a discussion on it.
Okay.
Unless someone else wants it. Yeah, anyone can.
On Article 5 is the. You can have someone from the board do that, or we can ask.
Is attending.
We'll be there.
We'll
You
let Jim
should.
do it.
Okay.
Get a lot of support.
Article 6 is the budget, so that's really just motion by Eric Russell. Seven,
Sorry, that was my bad, not into the microphone.
we volunteered Eric Russell to be the person to speak on the default.
But that's okay.
There wasn't even a space there. Article 7 was the $613,835 to in the capital improvement program. This would be motioned by Alice Kennedy, seconded by Kate Stewart. Ask Tracy Young as chair to.
As long as Dan's here.
Article 8's the $20,000 for the police recruitment bonus. This Article 9 is the $361,400.
I'm sorry, who's going to present Article 8?
So Article 9 is the $361,427 for fraud from the public loan. Motion by Tracy Young, second by John Klug to
Speak on that one yourself?
I can, or Eric would like to start that out as well. And
I can do that.
Article 10 is the municipal water meter backflow by John Klug, second by Eric Russell. Just put myself or somebody wants to. Article 11 is rescinding authority to borrow $40,000, sidewalk improvements, and 584 public works building improvements. Motion made by Eric Russell, seconded by Alice. Someone want to speak about this, or?
Don't all jump at once now.
Are they planning on doing any sidewalk work? I would say that you can just,
Yeah, I think the right thing to do, sidewalk talked about here,
Right.
is even if we were going to,
Yeah, no, I can present that if, I can make the statements.
want to present that, Eric? Sure. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to authorize this step gifts for property. So this is the not on of under $5. Motion by Alice, second by Kate. Is there somebody that would like this article? You have, unless you guys.
no, I think you've written a good memo there. A couple clarifies some, especially the differentiation of
That's something different.
what were you referring to?
We're still on the previous item.
Oh, we're still on 12?
Yeah.
I just write my name in for 12.
Is there anything you want to talk about, Lindsay, or?
Yeah, so real quickly, just if you didn't attend the school deliberative session, so the cadence is going to be different. And the only voting that will happen is if there's a proposed amendment. So unlike, it'll be prudent to keep on top of where we're at. And in fact, I would actually ask if we could remove from the slides, can we remove like in Article 12, like I just have slide Article 12 up, where in the parentheses where it says majority vote required. Can we remove that information? Or does it need to, because that's the wording that has to go on the warrant? Okay, all right. So everything that we're discussing is to then get approved to be put on the warrant. And that's, okay, so that's why that's there. We will probably have to reiterate, we're not voting on any of these articles. Article 12 cannot have any amendments. Article 1 and 2 are already on the warrant, so we're starting on Article 3 for discussion. And I think that the default budget's not in here, right?
Default budget will be discussed but cannot be amended.
Okay, so the default budget will be discussed but cannot be amended. So just to having this clarification of terms. And I will try to put something out or send it through the town offices this week so people also have that understanding. Because we're used to taking a vote, and unless there's an amendment that gets offered. Okay, all right, on to the next. But we will have to restrict reconsideration. So, some of you are very good at that, remembering to do that, so have it in your back pocket.
And
But I
as
think-
normal, our attorney will be there to help us to make sure that statutory level.
But that's all I got. Anything for me?
I have something for the select board if you have something.
I have a related question. Just, have you had a chance to talk to the planning board about how all of the new zoning will be presented at the polls in March?
I have had a communication with David Fracht, and there will be a table probably when we have the full town report where that can be available, as well as, so then the full language of the, of any zoning changes will be available there. So that is information that can be inside. It doesn't have to be outside the rails with candidates.
It would probably be helpful to have some clear guidelines for everybody on the planning board of how that'll work.
Okay,
We've got a month or whatever before.
sure.
But to have that at our second meeting in February, just so that everybody's on the same page.
Okay, yeah, because that's legal requirements, and so we can have that information inside.
Exactly. I just want everyone to know what the legal requirements are, so that,
Yeah.
so that when people ask us, we know what to tell them.
Absolutely. When's that meeting? Well, I'll try to get the information to you. I don't know if I'll be able to go to the meeting or not. That's okay.
Is it the 4th?
Second, fourth.
It's the 4th
Thursdays,
Wednesday?
Wednesdays?
I can get you the exact date, Lindsay.
All right. If I'm not teaching a class that evening, I'll be there. But yeah, that's akin to the town report, which is information that can be inside. It doesn't have to, it's not considered electioneering. So,
Yeah, though it would also be helpful to have some guidance on if people ask questions.
oh, yeah. So,
Because if somebody comes up and says, hey, I've got this, I've got a question about it, I'm assuming that I take them outside to talk about it.
yeah.
But that should be very clear for everybody.
Okay, yeah. And at the deliberative session, I believe that there's going to be out in the hallway, you all are going to be setting something up. So people can come up to you and ask questions like any other, just as we've done in town meetings, groups are allowed to put up information with my permission, not just put tables up on their own. And then if voters walk up to you, that's fine, but not approaching voters. Giving people that space.
We have a request from the public, just to remind everyone to speak into the mic. They can hear you. That's not to you, but just to the select board and town team to speak into their mic because there's some challenges online hearing.
So as I understand it, at the voting for the second session, although the information is available inside the voting room in the community building, advocacy is outside, correct?
That's what Lindsay just said to us.
That's exactly the kind of guidance I'm asking Lindsay specifically for.
Yes, so we'll get that out in clear writing, because we want to be able to, plus there's no room. There's just no room to have conversation. So continue to try to keep all that outside.
Thank you very much. Next up, a discussion about the finance director succession memo. We will find in our packet.
So in your packet, this is what Tracy was talking about, but I had written a memo. We had gotten multiple questions and multiple things on the listserv about this position, a lot of questions. Instead of just trying to answer questions as they came out, we wrote this memo and distributed it to the board for review, and just wanted to see if there were any comments, questions, changes, or even the need to put this out before we release this as a public document distribution.
You know if we sent it to Ladders?
Who?
Ladders. Ladders.
Oh, the actual position?
Send it to Ladders.
Nope. What is that?
Not as big as LinkedIn. On second.
Heard of it. Does anybody have an account? Because you usually have to have an account or be a...
No, you don't have to be a member.
On this memo, going back to the topic at hand, I think this is a really good document, and I appreciate it because these are, it pretty much encapsulates the questions that I've been asked, have separately seen as well. A lot of them overlap, and I feel like it's really helpful for people to see the compensation and transition costs broken out and written down in writing, because we've talked a lot about it in meetings, but for those of us who are more visual learners or just aren't going to remember every name, I think it's important. I appreciate this. And I didn't really have any substantial corrections or changes. I don't know about you guys.
I really like that memo. It was concise, to the point, made perfect sense. Any other comments?
I just think it's really helpful and will only smooth the transition into this new role better. I think it's really has a lot of foresight to it, so thank you.
Ready to move on to the next item?
Yes, please.
Solar legislation, Tracy Young has asked on behalf of the Energy Committee for a little time to discuss New Hampshire HB 1002 solar legislation. Go for
You
it.
each have a memo in your packet on the board. If anyone in the public needs to see this, I can provide a copy. But essentially, the House in New Hampshire has proposed revoking a 50-year-old law which provides property tax exemption for solar installations of any size, both private and commercial. Their attitude is that it rebalances taxation throughout the state. Obviously, the Energy Committee isn't going to agree with the missed opportunity to have a property tax exemption to try to promote solar installations. So the Energy Committee has made a unanimous vote and asks for the support of the Select Board in their unanimous vote to oppose the House's attempt to revoke a 50-year-old law which provides property tax exemption to solar installations. We've made an approximation, and that's why it has a small approximation mark, that it would only affect the town of Enfield to the point of about $10,000 in tax revenue by our estimate, if you will, which is approximately a little bit less than 1 penny in the tax rate. So for a $300,000 house, the impact would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $0.97. However, it is a larger amount in larger towns. You've heard about Hudson, for example, where it'd be a little more impact. In other larger cities, it would be a larger impact. But it is, along with a number of proposals this year by the current administration in Concord, pushed through political reasons, and it's a very backwards thinking proposal, the Energy Committee believes, along with several other backward proposals they've come up with. I won't discuss right.
Are you asking us to write?
Asking the Select Board to express their opinions on it, and down the line, we may ask the Select Board to consider some sort of communication to the appropriate entities expressing town support for rejecting this HB 1002.
Looking for a motion from the board?
I am looking for a motion from the board of support for this letter, which is written in opposition to House Bill 1002.
I so move.
I'll second.
Okay, I would support the concept, the way legislation moves and gets amended. Not just supporting the bill, but if you do that, we can either write something as a select board, or I can continue to watch this legislation and
The legislation has gone through both individual technology committee and also the executive review committee. It is up for a vote soon.
Okay.
It's already gone through all the committees, so it's ready for voting.
Hey, Holly, I just wanted a clarification. So the 50-year-old legislation, was that put in place so a town is enabled to give an
That's
exemption?
exactly correct.
Okay, because I feel that for certain parts of our political system, they keep preaching to us about choice, and now they're taking away a choice. And I think that we need to keep bringing that up publicly and showing it for what it really is, because I remember Enfield making that choice. I support it, and I think it's very unwise to limit how we're going to do our energy.
The Enfield vote was in 2007, and this law rejects the Enfield as well as every other town's vote.
Would you be willing to change your motion to be in support of the notion of writing a letter, or, because I guess
Yes.
I'd like to have some flexibility. Did John make the motion, though? Who made the motion?
I've made a general motion.
And I seconded, yeah, okay. So just to clarify, okay. because I'm very concerned about the local control. We took this to town meeting. We discussed it on the floor at length, and I think it was a pretty interesting discussion. And if we wanted to do anything to take away then we should go back to town meeting again. Right? That's the way. I know it's not town meeting anymore, but it should go on the official ballot, right? We should have a discussion. And I personally plan, because you guys can all individually write in and testify, and I have been making a regular habit. There's a place where it says elected official. I put elected official, and I put my name, and I say I'm testifying on behalf of myself, but it still counts. So I think in addition to any action we take as a board and giving some support to our energy committee, because I think they do a great job, I would hope everybody would take that same moment in time, because I think local control is essential. They keep asking us for more of our money. They keep telling us what to do, but they're not giving us anything.
And that's a great comment, Kate. The difficulty is under SB2, unless it has a monetary value, we can't discuss it.
But it will go, if somebody put it on as a warrant article item, it will go on a ballot, and we can choose in our deliberations here and to make it very public to have a discussion. And I think we should commit, if somebody wanted to change it, we should do that. I have not had anyone come to me and say, wow, Kate, I really want to get rid of your solar exemption. And I hope they won't, because, well, we have a lot of important stuff to do.
So what does select board opposition look like?
Opposition?
Isn't that what we're talking about, opposition of this bill?
Like if we write a letter?
Yeah, like what is that operationally, what does that look like?
A comment from the group that proposed it in Concord, which is the group that they're the majority party in the House. Their rationale was that they felt it rebalanced property taxes in the state so that it disadvantaged the people that don't have a solar installation.
Oh, I just meant like, what's the step?
If the select board was going to write a letter, either one of you guys could write it, or you could charge me to write something it to you guys to send.
Do we know when testimony is due on this? What's the deadline?
There's no more testimony, only a vote.
Oh, okay.
It's a done deal, ready for voting. It could come up anytime in the next 6 weeks.
So writing a letter and putting in the mail pretty quickly might be better than waiting till
Yes,
a meeting in the future.
yes.
I'm in favor of that. So again, I'll make a motion again
Please.
that we authorize the town manager to write a letter strongly in opposition to this bill.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We'll do that, and I'll send it to our representatives to share.
So I've communicated with David Frack on a personal level already. I filed, Kate has mentioned a personal objection on one of the hearings. And won't even talk about the bicycle bill, which is another piece.
I think it's dead.
We hope, but
Yeah. Okay.
Mugging kids
I have
on
a 6-year-old, and now I've got to,
exactly.
figure out how to buy her a bike.
Last item under business is trustee of trust funds resignation.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the resignation of John Carr as trustee of trust funds with regret, and just say that John has bailed us out so many times and shared his knowledge, and I'm sure if you wanted to ask him a question, he would do it. But I am eternally grateful that he steps up again, and happy retirement again.
Second.
Hopefully, he'll stick around and help us out with the election process. He does, usually.
All in favor?
Aye. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Administrative items, anything particularly we need to do with these?
They're in your folder for signature, unless there's something on there you want to discuss.
Okay. Right, then, Public comments.
I would like to say something. I'm Sharon Buffet.
Yes, please do.
Okay, this is a question for Ed and a comment. Ed, did I understand that when you discussed, with the select board regarding Laramie Farms and water, that the idea was for them to find water for their remaining 150 units on their property if they could? And then if they couldn't, that the other solution you had in mind was that working with them to look at finding some way to treat the McConnell well and for that to be a water solution?
Those are two different solutions, and yes, we will be working with them to bring some sort of water to the table.
Okay, so here's my comment. I'm very concerned about the McConnell well being used because obviously a lot of people know that it has, I may not be correct on the item it has in it, it's radon or uranium, and that's why it can't be used, even though it's a very high producing well, and it has to be treated. It can only be used in emergencies. I'm sure all of you are aware of this. But are you aware that because of the radon that's in the ground and the reason it has to be treated, and that treatment will be, I think you're aware it will be expensive. I don't know if you're aware that it will be ongoing, because what's in the ground has like a half-life of 1 billion years. You can't just take it out and have it be done with. And then the material that you're going to have to treat that with, that will become radioactive waste, because that will have to be like used up, it might soak up the radon. I'm not a scientist, but the idea is it will remove it, and then it will be a byproduct that Enfield will have to deal with financially and in order to find somebody to take that for us. So I really don't think that's a very good solution, and that other solutions should be found. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Kiley?
Yeah, I've just got one request, and the request is that the agenda, if the public could get the same one that has the links, the embedded links, so that the public can also see the embedded links, so when we come to a meeting, we're able to see what everybody else sees. The agenda the general public gets is just the regular agenda with no embedded links. Like, it would have been great to have gotten the audit report before we got here today, or anything like that. So it's just something to make it easier, and you may get more people to come to the meeting if they know what you're actually talking about.
Thank you, Dan. Anyone else?
I have my hand up.
Okay.
I know it was not necessarily a back and forth. I was just hoping, this is Bridget Labrie, to put Sharon's mind at ease as I put up with and have to treat the uranium in my well. And there is a system for it, and I am sure it would be a very large system and the company that takes care of it. But just a clarifier, Ed, I'm pretty sure you said that it would be on the owners of Laramie Farms to come up with that, and is that something that would fall back to the town to deal with, or would that be the owners of who are paying for said treatment to take care of? So I think there might be a little confusion there, but just overall, it's very doable, and these systems exist all over, so.
I was going to say, there's a lot of complexities in that. So as we negotiate through that process, we'll determine how the long-term maintenance of that would be done, if that is to be done. But it is something that we're looking at doing anyway. So whoever pays the cost will be determining that. But yes, this is done in multiple different towns across the state and has been for many, many, many years. And it's not a cheap solution to get it done, but the ongoing maintenance is very minimal.
Thank you. See a hand up from Shirley.
Hi. I hate to complain, but I couldn't attend the meeting tonight because I had to prep for a test tomorrow. So I wanted to hear, as a budget committee member, wanted to hear the auditor's report. It was very difficult. The audio was off part of the time, and I saw that I won't be able to listen to it from the recording because the recording was not on a lot. It was off and on all the time. And the last half of this, there's been no camera. Very disappointing. I hope we can find what the problem is and fix it.
Thank you very much, Shirley. Are we ready to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, folks.